Hey, friends, welcome back to Just Saying, where we keep it real about family, ambition, and everything in between. Today, we're peeling off the rose colored glasses, literally. My guest left a toxic marriage, became a therapist specializing in toxic relationships, and just released her new book called Rose Colored Glasses. She brings not only professional expertise, but also personal grit, humor, and lived experiences. If you've ever asked yourself, why is leaving so hard? Or how do I get my life back without losing myself? This conversation is for you. So buckle up because we're about to get both real and a little contemptuous about love loss and moving forward. Hey, friends, I'm here with Kate Mageau, author of The Rose Colored Glasses. Welcome to Just Saying, Kate.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Jess. I appreciate it.
Hello. Kate was crocheting. So you can keep crocheting. It'll be fun. We'll watch you crochet while we talk.
Great.
I was telling her that my mom crochets like some beautiful pieces. So sometimes it's kind of fun to watch people do it. Okay. So Kate, tell us a little bit about your personal journey. Like I really want to get kind of a little bit of a backstory on how you came about and what is rose colored glasses? Where'd the title come from?
Yeah. I will say my journey is in the book. That is a lot of what the book is. But yeah, I was in an abusive relationship, in a toxic relationship. And I was in it for about 5 years and eventually left. And I got a therapist. Was in therapy for a few years with that particular therapist. And then I also went to a domestic violence advocacy agency and went to a support group and learned all about domestic violence and toxic relationships. And was just so I was so mad that there's all these basic principles of what makes a relationship healthy or not healthy that I had never been taught. And when I heard that it is between 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 people who have experienced it, and we're not taught this and we don't talk about it. So I'm like, how are we supposed to prevent it if no one knows? And I just used that anger to fuel me. And I started writing my book, and then I became a therapist. And while in graduate school, a little bit before graduate school, and then while in school, I went back to that agency and I ran the support group and volunteered to do that. And then in graduate school, I worked at an internship that specialized in it. And then I became a therapist. And right out the gate, I was like, I want to help other people. I don't want people to have to go through this. And so, yeah, that is kind of my story of where I'm at now. And now I've been a therapist for a few years and putting my book out, which is my story and my therapist experience and lens looking at it.
So, okay. Can I ask you a question? Kind of like off top, well, not off topic, but you were living with the situation, you were in living in the same home as
Oh,
the
I was married
situation?
to him. Yeah,
Married,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, because when you're married, I mean, I'm lucky, one of the lucky ones. I never experienced this with my husband. We've been together 28 years, but I did have somebody that was a little nutty, and the moment he put his hands on me, I left. But because I was in a situation where I could, but that was before I met my husband. But there are a lot of women that are, I'm not saying that they stay around just for the financial part of it, but a lot of women stick it out because one, maybe the kids, or two, they're afraid to be on their own because the men have made them feel as though they can't do it without them. Like how you can survive without me. Am I right?
Yeah, so let me go into that a little bit more. So one, yeah, finances is a really big thing. How do you live on your own? But there are anyone can go to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, find their local agency, and there's resources for like if you need money, place to stay, food, etc. So there's that part. Then the same for the kids is a really common thing. And I get it. And I want to say that kids see what happens, even if most of the arguments happen behind doors. They see people with a frayed nervous system. They see they feel the energy, even if you think they're not seeing anything, they're at least feeling the energy. And it's important to have a good role model for healthy relationships for kids so then they don't end up in that same thing. And then the main, like, biggest reason is that any relationship that's toxic has an element of emotional abuse, and when there's emotional abuse, it is taking down someone's self-esteem, and so when there's no self-esteem, then you don't think that you need to leave, you don't think that you can leave, and so it's a big process of rebuilding that self-esteem to where it's possible.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like in my case, it was the person that was, I guess, aggressive towards me was, I don't want to say abusive because I don't think he was necessarily, I don't know how to characterize it because it didn't happen because too often because I put a stop to it right away. You know what I mean? It wasn't like ongoing. He put me in a financial situation where I was dependent upon him. And so it's almost like they're afraid of losing you so that they'll do whatever it takes to keep you attached to them. And um that's just from my own experience. I'm not an expert like you. but that's kind of like my take on it too. So if you're out there and you feel like you can't live without him because he's made you feel that way financially and otherwise, you got to get strong, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And seek therapy, seek a coach. So many people say therapy is unavailable to them. The reality is it is hard, but anyone can go to Psychology Today is the biggest website out there. Put in your insurance company. And if you don't have insurance, in most states you can get insurance through your state. So get health insurance and then you can get a therapist. Like it is available to people more than people think, and get help at a agency that specializes and supports it. Find your local agency and get the help to have the resources emotionally, monetarily. There's babysitting, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of support.
Right. Okay, so can I ask you a question? So what was there like a defining moment where you took off your rose-colored glasses? I don't want to give away your book.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm just saying, was there a moment that pushed you over the edge, from staying to leaving, basically?
Um, there was in my book, you'll see that there's 3 incidences over a period of 5 years of, um a physical thing. Um, and so I'd like to say it was, the first one, but no, that's just not realistic. That's not what happened. Um, the reality is at the time of the last one, my sister was, visiting and she was there and, and my cousin, I won't go into all the details, but anyways, I had family with me,
Right.
and that was what was really, really helpful, and it can just be so hard. I didn't tell anyone what was happening for so long, but then once my family came to visit and then we all, like, went, together somewhere, when my family was there, I decided to start opening up and telling them about what had been happening, and then another incident occurred while they were there, and so it was they were really instrumental in helping me, and it's so hard to want to share your story, but doing so, telling people about what's actually happening, it can be some of the first steps towards leaving to safety.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to tell. Well, I'm going to say it because I wrote it in my book. I wrote a book to a memoir of my life, and one of my stories is called "A Jerry Springer Wedding," and I just wanted to interject because so my sister, love her to death, my older sister, she was not in a very good relationship with her husband. And there was like all these things that were happening. And then we got to my reception and then he was like threatening to hurt people there. It was like Jerry Springer. Like nobody could get out of their way to let my day happen. Like it had to have all kinds of drama. But my sister spent 45 minutes in the bedroom crying because her marriage split up on the day of my wedding. But she had, and I lost all, I mean, I'm selfishly saying I lost my photographer left and I didn't get to do all the things that I wanted for my wedding, but I was so happy that we were there to hold her hand and like support her and like tell her, say, no, Dixie, we're going to help you. We're going to help you do this. Like my mom and dad let her move in and they helped raise her son. I mean, she had a lot of support. And so she just didn't want to put that on anybody. For the longest time, for 8 years, she just kind of let him abuse her emotionally. I don't think there was any physical abuse, but I'm not speaking for her, but it was, she endured a lot. And so finally she had the support of her family, like almost giving her a big warm hug saying, we'll help you. Don't worry. Well, you have your support. So I think, you having your family there, and I think other people, I don't think they think their family would support them, or maybe they're afraid to tell their family. But if you give your family a chance, they're there to help you. And I think that is, I think a lot in what helps people get out of the situation when they know that their family's not going to leave them, or you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
100%. Yes, I completely agree. It's so hard to tell them, but most family will help. And I want to add two other parts. I want to come back to a phrase you said, and that if some people don't have family members, right? Maybe they've been estranged for it, and that can also happen in abuse, in a toxic relationship, where the one of the methods that an abuser will use is isolation, and they'll try and isolate. So sometimes there's has to be work to rebuild with family, or sometimes maybe they're just not around, and that is where you can have um, found family in a support group, in getting help at an agency, through your friends. Like, find, if it's not your family, it can be whoever you have, right? Whoever's closest to you, and like find and create those supports by talking about your story. The other thing I just want to briefly say, you said she let him emotionally abuse her, and I just want to, maybe it was not intentional, but I'd like to address it, because it's not that simple. When a person is like, the emotional abuse starts out so, it seems like it's like, oh, they're just teasing, or it starts out so subtle that you don't really know that it's happening. And so when it happens over time, it just erodes and erodes that self-esteem. And also, every time that there's some sort of act of emotional violence or any type of violence, it creates a trauma bond, and then the person stays with the trauma bond. I'm kind of like jumping around and vaguely, there's a lot to it, but there's so many reasons that it happens, and that it's so hard to get out of. And that's really a lot of what I want my book to show. And it's not a like, so no one's like allowing the abuse. It's just
Yeah, I
that.
guess it was more of a slip of the tongue, I guess.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Also because, like, I'm just a different person. Like I said, the moment something was not right in my situation, I'm just different. Like, I think differently. And I guess because I know what you're saying though. It's almost like it sneaks in there and it's so subtle and it's over time, and it just becomes an issue down the road and you don't notice it in the very beginning. But I guess, yes, I shouldn't have said let, because that is not the case. But I don't know. I think differently than, um, it's hard for me to explain. Like, my mindset is like, you touch me one time, motherfucker, and I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, But
or
but there's
you
many.
disrespect me. I don't need to be here. Like, I can be somewhere else and be just as happy. But I'm just a
Right.
different type of person. That's
Well,
just me.
it happens to very strong people, right? There can be a lot of. I'm a very strong person too, and it happened to me because it's so subtle, and
Yeah.
because after the first time, we had already been together several years, that bond was already formed. It didn't happen right at the first beginning. If happens right at the beginning, sure, no one's gonna put up with that, but it doesn't work that way. It happens much later,
Right.
and so that's why it's important to talk about what are those really subtle signs that could be indicators of more to come.
Okay, so what would you say, from a therapist perspective, what actually makes up a toxic relationship? Like, give me your therapeutic definition.
So the easiest way to see it all, you can anyone can Google this. It's online. The power and control wheel. It will show all the different types of abuse, and any of those is going to be toxic. When looking at the relationship overall, you look if there is person who has one power over more power over the other person. Hopefully, there's an equality in a healthy relationship, and if there's not a sense of equality and partnership, then and one person has more power, then that's a clue. And then your other main clue is whether the person wants to work on what they're doing that's hurting the other person. When you say, "Hey, this is bothering me," and a lot of times these people, these toxic people will say, "Oh, totally, yeah, I'll stop doing XYZ." But over time they do not. So you want to look at where's the power dynamic, where's the power balance, and where's the willingness and action toward changing.
Yeah, and so if they're not willing to change, basically you're saying that like that's a huge red flag. Like what are other sneaky little red flags that people might often overlook?
Look at how much a person you can look for signs of being selfish and signs of only thinking about their own feelings. You want to look at how much they pay attention to how their actions affect others, how much they care about you and even other people. Even on a first date, you can tell how they treat the server. Do they treat the server like a servant or a human? You can look for those kinds of things. And it's really about how you feel with the person. How do you feel right away at the beginning is sometimes it's like love and butterflies and kittens and rainbows and all the things. But what is your nervous system doing? What is your nervous system telling you?
Yeah, like if you're walking down the aisle and you're like you're not sure that this is the right thing, it's probably not the right thing.
Ye- Yes. And I'd like to do is help people prevent it before they're walking down the aisle.
Right. Right. I was just thinking, like, right when you were saying that, I was thinking, like, man, when I walked down the aisle with my husband, even he even said too, he's like, this is like the one thing that we both knew that we were sure of. Like there was no reservations on either side. Cause I asked him, I'm like, were you nervous at all? He goes, no, not really. He was more nervous about what he had to say, like, and make sure that he could say it loud enough. Like he didn't, it wasn't the marrying part. It was the performance of it all. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but I digress. Okay. So
No.
why do you think it's so hard for people to leave even when they know it's a bad situation? I mean, let me interject real quick. I have a friend, okay, and he is in a bad relationship. Okay, his boyfriend is so abusive emotionally, not physically, but. And I keep telling him, I'm like, why? Like, I keep explaining to him, no, that's not okay. This is not all right what he's doing. And like, he's for a whole year, like, we talk almost every day. He knows, like, this is not a good situation, but he's just won't he won't leave him, and I don't
Mhm.
know, there's not any more advice I can give him.
Yeah.
Well, what do you say to somebody like that?
So so much of it is the eroded self-esteem that happens from the emotional abuse. And also a person can be emotionally abusive and you can still love them. And people will still have love for people that hurt them. And so it's okay to acknowledge that and validate that. Like, yes, you still love them, but that does not mean that you have to be with them. Just because you love with someone does not mean they need to be in your life. And giving that, starting there can start bringing some separation. Um, Also, looking at the power and control wheel, or it has its mirror, which is the equality nonviolence wheel. And that shows all the components of a healthy relationship. And so, if a person's not quite ready to see the things about domestic violence, toxic relationship, you can show them the healthy wheel and
Well,
say,
what are some things on the healthy wheel? Do you mind?
so like having a feeling of trust, having a feeling of being supported, being able to support somebody else's interests and things, an early warning sign can be also codependency, where you start doing all the things that the other person wants to do, organizing your life around them, right? So a healthy partner
Jeez
What?
Louise. That's him in a nutshell. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
you're speaking everything. I mean, I'm gonna make him listen to this, and he will
right.
see. Because it does. He doesn't. Okay. I love him to death. He has low self esteem because first of all, he looks great, but he thinks he's gaining weight. And the other guy, will post pictures of him, or not post, but like will show him, take a picture of him not in a very good light. When he maybe doesn't look his best, and then he'll like, see, look at you and all that, like really making him feel worse. And his
Mhm.
boyfriend has all the power. And yeah, so he's just so abusive to him, and I don't know how to help him. And I'm getting to the point where, like, I can't hear it anymore because I can't not help you because you don't listen to me. Why don't people listen when someone's trying to help them? Or what is it that makes them not want to listen to the advice of friends? And I'm giving them great advice, but
When a person's living with a person especially, or even if not,
living together in
okay.
this situation.
So yeah, so even if not, they're still spending a lot of time together. Two people in a relationship spend a ton of time together, and anyone else out of the relationship only has what, an hour a day, an hour a week, whatever it is way, way, way less than the time and energy they're getting from that other person. And there's gonna be times of when there's emotional abuse, and there's going to be times of like, oh, we're cuddling and we're watching our favorite shows together and we're doing our favorite activities together, everybody, like, this is great, and it can feel confusing, and it is confusing on purpose, right? You have the one person who's trying to take away the power from the other person, but to do that they still have to show some signs of love, and so it's super confusing. So yeah, looking at so the things on the healthy wheel, and then also looking at codependency versus healthy relationships, which I do have a free chart that anyone can get when they subscribe on my website. You can see the difference between codependency and healthy, which is an early warning sign. So that is where your friend could see things like, oh, I'm spending more time with them. Things like having the feeling of could not live without the person versus like I love my partner very, very much. Like, he's amazing. I love him so much. Now, if something happened to him or if we broke up or something, I know that I would be okay. I mean, like, not at first. I'd be really upset and grieving and whatever, right? But like I still know I would survive. But when a person is still in a unhealthy relationship, then it feels like my whole life would be over. I can't imagine it.
I mean, he gets to the point where I'm very scared for him because he does get his head is in a bad place when he feels like they're breaking up. And so I'm to the point now where I'm like, well, do I need to have a well check on him or what? I'm nervous about that. What do you do if you're the friend and you have a friend that's dealing with this, and he's at a point where sometimes he feels like he just can't live or can't go on? What do you do when they're in that situation?
Try and okay, so you want to give emotional validation and support to like reminding a person of their strengths. But it can be really hard to even hear those when a person's feeling so down. And so you want to kind of show them ways to show them that they have strengths. Like, you could ask him to cook a meal for you if cooking is a strength, right? And then, look, you know how to do this. You have capabilities. Or you could, oh, I noticed this XYZ project you did. Like, point out like actionable items, or sorry for background noise, so that just went by. Evidence of something that shows to them a strength that they have.
I mean, I do try to say, like, because he thinks he doesn't have anything to live for, and all the, he says all the things that get you worried because I care about him, But I tell him, I'm like, you have lots of friends, that call him all day. It's like he's constantly on the phone with people. He goes to barbecues, he goes to house parties, he does things. I don't do any of those things. He's got a lot of friends where he can do things. I don't have a peer group like that at all. But he makes it seem like if he doesn't have this one guy in his life, that his life is over. And I'm like, no, you have people that love you, like, that are here for you. And I don't know. And I do try to show him, like, you're a hard worker. You're so handsome. And I know people like, you're a very handsome guy, because he doesn't think he looks good right now. And so he's very upset about that, but he's very cute. Um, he wouldn't like me because I'm not his type, but I know that he could. I know he could find a lot of guys out there easy peasy because he's hot. So, and the guy he's with, I'm not going to give the whole story, but the guy he's with is no cup of tea. Let me just say. Anyways, I get off on a tangent. Let's get back to you. And I'm like, I just felt like this was like something that I could actually, what I always say to people, like I use my podcast as my personal therapy session, because I swear I'm getting so much out of podcasting. I get like good advice, and I'm like really happy that you're on this show, because actually I really needed to hear some things that you're saying, because as a friend with somebody going through it, I'm questioning things that maybe I'm doing wrong, that I don't want to like push them over the edge or say the wrong thing. And because I want to be supportive, we all want to be there for him. Okay, so okay, so how do you help clients rebuild their lives um without them like recreating the same patterns that they're in? Does that make
So,
sense?
yeah, learning what the abuse is, what the toxic behaviors are, learning what those toxic behaviors are, so you can identify, okay, that was what happened, like picking it out of a story. If they tell me a memory and they look at a story and we look at what are those behaviors, it starts to reduce the shame. It goes, oh, that wasn't my fault. That was what somebody did to me. And it gives the empowerment through knowledge. There's so much empowerment in the simple idea of knowledge. Being able to say, that's what that is, and I'm going to avoid that in the future now that I have that information. Yeah.
Do you think that narcissists, do they have to be a narcissist to be? I mean, do you think that narcissists are more likely to abuse?
So, everyone talks about narcissistic abuse, narcissist this, narcissist that.
When it's all about them, I'm talking about somebody who's like, it's all about them, how they
N-
feel.
Yep, yep,
It's
yep, yep, yep.
all about them.
So first, I want to say, I work with the survivor, right? The person who's coming out of an unhealthy relationship. So I don't diagnose the other person because I don't know them.
Right.
But I want to say that sometimes they're narcissists. Sometimes, in my case with my ex, he's a sociopath. Like literally, like if you look at the actual definitions of sociopath and narcissist, there's some overlap. But I think that people get very hung up on the diagnosis part of what it is, and I don't think that that is that helpful. I think what's helpful is to look at what are the behaviors. What are they doing and how does the person feel about it? That's what's most important. How does this person make you feel?
Yeah. Um, what was the biggest challenges for you once you left your situation?
I had very low self-esteem after, being in that. And thankfully I had a large group of family and friends that I was able to lean on, and they would help me build up my strengths. I had therapy, I had the support group, I like went and got all of the things, but it was, oh, and I also had undiagnosed ADHD at that time. Um, but so there's a lot of anxiety and depression from leaving and also from not understanding how my brain worked. But that's another side topic.
What's your question though? Can I stop you real quick? How? Because I swear, you probably spent 5 minutes with me already. You're like, she's got ADHD for sure. Um, so because somebody had asked me, because I was having like some brain, like not fog, but just like like when before we started going, I was like all over the place. You could tell. And someone's like, "Do you have ADHD?" And I'm like, "No." And I'm thinking like, "Holy shit, I probably do." Yeah, right here. My I used to be like totally like this when I was young, hyperactive and just go, go, go all the time, and my my kids are kind of like me a little bit, and I'm just wondering, like, do you get a diagnosed as an adult? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. So I actually do assessments. I'm licensed in Washington and Florida. So I do assessments for people who live in Washington and Florida. Although there is I'll be adding more states. So I won't go into the details. But anyways, I will be adding more states down the road. Um
California? No.
when it's
It's hard to be licensed in California for almost anything. My husband's a physical therapist, and he can go to any state and use his California license. He still has to get registered, but it's harder to get into California than it is to get into another different state.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, yeah, without going too much into that.
I'm a squirrel, like, I'm sorry, I get off on a tangent. But
Anyhow, so yes, you can get an assessment as an adult. Um, you can definitely Google it, or Psychology Today is like the one website that almost every therapist and psychologist and people are on. So you can look for someone who specializes in ADHD, and you can look for an assessment or an evaluation, and um, have that peace of mind, have that
yeah.
security.
What do they do for people with I'm so off on a tangent, but what do they do for adults with attention deficit? Because like my son takes something, and he's at 24, but he's taken something since he was 17, and my stepdaughter used to as well. But what do they do for an adult like this, and does it really help? Like stay
Um,
focused, or any medication that would do?
yeah, adults take medication.
I didn't know. I thought that was like a kid's drug. Like I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like. You know, okay, wait, let's back up. So we were talking about you. So you were finding out some things about yourself. Let's back up to where we left off. And I'm so sorry. It was all about me. I mean, I got off on a tangent. Like,
That's okay. Yeah, yeah, it's ADHD. It's
no.
I see signs. Yeah, I'll just put it that way.
Okay. So
Um,
embarrassing.
so yeah, so not understanding how my brain worked did definitely affect how my healing process, I will say. But I had just so many cycles of anxiety and depression, and I threw myself into dating, which was probably not well advised, but that is what I did. Um, and I spent a ton of time with friends and family, and I started writing my book after like the first year or so. I spent 8 years writing it.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
Was it just because you had a hard time reaching those emotions to get them out on the page, or was it just what was the process so long?
The first draft took about a year and a half, and it was really hard to do. Like, at first, I could only do like one writing session per week. And then eventually I was able to add more and more days. But I really tapped into like being in that memory and like looking at my five senses of what they were doing in that memory and putting it on the page. So really re-experiencing it again. So it was therapeutic to go through it. Not easy, but therapeutic and necessary. And then I did like 8 edits on it.
Because you
Um,
just don't, you just be like, this isn't right, or I don't want it to sound like that, or you know,
Yeah, I did some like my first edit, I think was or one of the first ones was line editing, do I have too many words, have so many words
yeah.
to try and say something, right?
Yeah.
Little grammar tweaks, like why did I say the word that so many times,
Can
right?
I ask you a question? Did you self edit, or did you?
I
Yeah.
did. I've had a couple other people like go through it, not professional editors, but yeah, I did 8 edits. And I also used to be a copy editor. I've done instructional design, professional writing. I have a lot of writing and editing experience in my
Oh,
background. It's
that's
like
neat.
gonna put it together. But the other parts of the editing and the big part that was the hardest was that the first draft only had all the negative stories. And people said, "Well, is that really what it was like?" And I was like, "Well, no, there's obviously good parts, or else I wouldn't have stayed with them." So I was like, "I guess I have to write the good parts." And that was just as emotionally difficult because I didn't want to access those memories.
Right. Isn't it crazy though? When I wrote my book, it only took me 2 months to write it, and it was like, I know, and I have a terrible, terrible memory of a lot. I only put in the things that I could remember, and that were significant in my life. I figured they were in my memory for a reason, and they're that significant that I kept held on to those. Like my husband, he'll say, "Remember this," and da da da, and he'll go into detail. I'm like, "Nope, don't remember that, don't remember that," and that's only been at 28 years. Think about my whole life. My goodness. So, but my edits took a long time too. And I tried to self edit the first couple times and then I sent it to a publisher. And then they, of course, did two edits and they said, looks great. So we went from there. But I also felt as though I realized things I never would have thought of or realized at the end of my book. It was almost like I sat back and I'm like, oh my God, like everything I thought was one way really is this other way. And also I like you, it's almost like you're in the moment. Like when I wrote each chapter, I wrote it as I was thinking at that age. So I did write about when I was little, I had eye surgery and it was traumatizing, but at the time I was writing that chapter, I brought myself back to how I was thinking at that time. And those are the thoughts that I wrote down. And not how I think about it now, it's how I think about it then. And then at the end of the book, I came to a realization about the whole thing, like my whole life. But you do come back out of writing a book about your life and you're like, holy crap, like I learned some things doing this. It's like such a different and unique process. And anybody out there thinking about like, oh, my story can go in a book for sure, put it down on paper. I think it's,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really, it's a great process.
Absolutely. And then a couple of things I want to touch on with that. One is, yeah, that was kind of the impetus of writing my book the way I did. I finished writing it and I was like, well, I have all this information about what was happening emotionally, psychologically. I can understand that now from all the training and experience I have. So I wrote each scene as though I was right there and then, and that's how I was feeling. And then I went back with my current understanding and explained what was really going on in there. So that each,
Right.
yeah,
Okay, so now that you've heard stories of a lot of people and you wrote your own story, do you find that other people's stories resonate so deeply with the words that you put on paper and that the book will in fact help many people because you've lived it, you're putting it out there in words that is very difficult for people to do. Like not many people can eloquently say the things in abuse. You know what I'm saying? Like put it on paper so people can say, oh my gosh, that's me in a nutshell. Like that is me. Like that's my story. And they'll find a little piece of themselves in your words. And
yeah.
do you find that like with the
Oh,
stories
yeah.
you've heard?
I mean, again, I'm a therapist and I
Right.
work with survivors, right? I hear people's
That's what I'm
stories.
saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of up and close with people that are dealing with this, and you're like, crap, that sounds like me. I wrote it in a book. You should read my book. You know what I mean?
I share my book with clients when it feels emotionally appropriate that they're, ready for it. I'll tell them about it. And people people identify so much with different
Right.
everybody has their own parts they identify with, but like overall people are like, "Oh, oh, I see all the things you've been saying. Okay, yes. Yeah.
Right. Like it would be like it's almost like a therapeutic tool in a way.
It is a therapeutic tool. Yes. Yes, it is."
I'm sorry. If I'm just coming to the party right now, I'm just telling you like I'm like little light bulbs are going off in my head. Okay. So humor seems to be a part of your survival kit, right? Am I right or no?
Yeah, I use humor. Yeah, there's humor in the
Can you
book too.
share
It's
a
not
funny
all like gloom and gloom.
why can you share a funny ironic moment from your own personal journey if that makes sense? That coincides with
Like
your
one moment.
no. Okay. Well, you know what?
I don't know.
Question. You know what? I write these questions down doesn't mean we have to follow along.
If something pops in my head, I'll let you know. But I don't.
I just thought, you had a toolkit and I thought, well, maybe you had some relation to the to putting it together, like something in your past that maybe helped you construct your toolkit. But okay, so
Well, the
what
toolkit is based off the psychological education and then the emotional healing and understanding I have as a therapist, right?
see
And
'cause
humor is part of it. I just don't know like one story to choose.
Okay, don't worry about it. I'm not putting you on the spot. Although I did put you on the spot, but I'm not meaning to. Okay.
It's okay.
I just asked these questions. I have a lot of questions written down because I'm not an expert in your field, and I just want to make sure we're telling the full story for people out there, as it pertains to your book and your journey. And I don't want to miss anything that maybe I would have left on the table, because this is an important topic.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there that are dealing with toxic people in their lives. It doesn't necessarily have to be you're in a you can have a toxic relationship in your work. I mean,
Yes.
you could be
Yes. It can
anywhere.
be in anywhere. It can be work, friendship, family, relationship, organization. It can be anywhere.
Another thing too about work, now that it comes to my mind, a lot of employers, maybe not small business, but a lot of employers, you can go to their HR department, and if you're struggling with something, a lot of times they have programs for you if you're in an abusive relationship. I know my one of my companies, they have they have great support groups, and they can have resources that can help you too if you just don't know where to reach out to. A lot of times your HR people are there to help you. I know that sounds silly because you're like, a lot of times the HR people they're not the nicest, but
Just real quick, I want to add to that the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Even if you don't think it's domestic violence, if it's some sort of unhealthy situation, whatever it is, go to their website and find your local agency, and you can get all the support there.
okay, so on that vein, today, if someone's feeling in a toxic dynamic situation, um, are you saying what would be maybe their a practical first step for them? Maybe if they don't feel like calling the hotline, or what would be one practical step?
So they have a phone number and they have a chat on their website and you can text them. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
many ways to do that. And I really, really do encourage that as a first step. But if not, browsing the resources on their website, you can get the free codependency chart that I've created on my website. Um, do a little online research from not just not just what you see in social media. Social media can be helpful, but, like, not everything is helpful on there. So from a reputable source like the National Domestic Violence Hotline or other similar one.
Yeah, because toxic relationships or domestic violence isn't just about walking out the door. There's a lot to it. And so I'm going to post a, hotline, domestic violence hotline, right after this episode, and website for my listeners. Where can our listeners find you, follow your work, or get a copy of your book?
Yes, thank you. So at my website, katemageau.com, which hopefully you'll put in the show notes as
Yes, I
well.
will. I will.
Great. So from there, you can find a link to the book on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. It'll be published in all the different places, Barnes and Noble and Apple and Google Play and etc. And you can search rose colored glasses. I will say there's other books that are called that. So hopefully mine starts popping up in the algorithm.
Post a picture of the outside of the book, so everybody will be able to see what it looks like, so they can search for that one. And
Yes.
Mageau, you want to spell your last name? It's Mageeau.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my website is www.katemageau.com. If you go there, you can find the link to. If you subscribe, you can get a free codependency versus healthy relationship chart that you can look at. And then you can find a link to the book anywhere.
Okay, so also, in perpetuity, you will find Kate's information on my website, jessaying.net. That's JESSSAYING.net. And you go to the podcast page. And if you scroll down and you go by episodes, just check. I think this will be episode 30, but well, you're listening to it, so you know what episode it ended up being. Um, just look for this episode and click into Kate's name, and it'll take you straight to her website. And also, you can check us out on. I'm on TikTok. I'm on let's see, LinkedIn. I'm on all the things. Okay.
All the things.
I'm
Me
on
too.
all the things. So go like, follow, subscribe, whatever the thing is you need to do. Go to my YouTube channel. I need some subscribers. That'd be nice. That's like a little wet kiss for me if you want to really do me a favor. But anyways, I just want to say thank you so much, Kate, for taking the time and putting up with my ADHD self. I think I'm going to go get on some medication right now. No, I'm just
Start with therapy and coaching for ADHD,
start with
which
that
I
first.
do.
No, I won't. I'll start with the medication for. No, I'm just teasing. All right. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Gather around when the sun dips low, talking about the days we used to know. VCR tapes and dial-up tones, raising kids living with achy bones. Leather jackets and big hair days, now it's carpool lines and PTA. Neon dreams turn into schoolyard fights, but our hearts glow in retro nights. We are Gen X, living both worlds. From cassette set tapes to a digital world. Parenting now with a nod to the past. The retro love we know will last. We are Gen X, living both worlds. From cassette tapes to a digital world. Parenting now with a nod to the past. The retro love we know will last. We dance to the beats of the boombox sound. Now bedtime stories echo all around. But deep inside we're the mixtape kings, still fighting life with arcade dreams. Feeding families with a pizza slice, telling tales with a side of advice.